Hey, thanks for clicking on my video. This is Rocky, and this review will be for episode 4 of Constantine. In this episode, we are introduced to a new character, a friend from John Constantine's past prior to Newcastle, and that character's name is Gary Lester. This character is pulled directly from the comics as well. We meet him as he comes through an airport, basically returning from time in Sudan with a essentially a demon bottled in a kind of clay pot, and this demon is unfortunately released by way of sheriff basically breaking the bottle, dropping it breaks, demon pops out. The demon's name is Nemoth or Nemoth, depending how you want to pronounce it. As well as this story is pulled directly from the early issues of Hellblazer. They did do some changes to it because it did actually involve Papa Midnight, as well as it took John working with Papa Midnight in order to trap the demon, basically. But we get, through Gary Lester, we learn a lot more about the events of Newcastle, and just see how much it's still affecting John. We still don't get all the information as far as if it's exactly how it was in the comics, but we get the basic, just that, Astra was possessed by this demon, and John, in his arrogance, thought he could pull it out or defeat it, along with, some friends that were at Newcastle with him as well. And, they were all confident that John could do this because they were all hanging out with the John Constantine, as at that time he was pretty big in the occult world and everything. So, no one had any fears or doubts until everything actually started happening, where, John got the idea of summoning his own demon to defeat the demon inside of Astra, basically. What he didn't realize is he wouldn't be able to control this demon, that demon being Nergal, who we saw in episode 1, basically dragging Astra to hell. In the comics, it's actually a bit more graphic, as Nergal actually kills the majority of John's friends that are at Newcastle, as well as basically, tearing them apart in front of his eyes. This all contributes to, John's subsequent breakdown and his feelings of, no one being able to be around him because they're all going to die, which he's expressed in this show as well. So it was, nice seeing that, strong tie into the comics. Some of the shots in the episode actually seem to be pulled from the very pages of the comic, so you can tell they were paying a lot of respect to that source material. Through Lester, we actually get a bit more information on Zed's power as she touches him, and she basically full-on feels like the crash after, his drug-induced binge, basically. So that transfers to her. So she gets images, she feels the emotions, and her body actually physically reacts to the things that she's seeing and experiencing. So she's, very, very powerful, and her powers seem to be growing her psychic potential, particularly with John trying to teach her how to let go and things like that. And through that, we get, some slight references to her having a strict upbringing and things like that. So this is probably laying groundwork or references to the Resurrection Crusade plot from the comics. I think that's why we're not seeing a lot of building with Zed's character right now, is a lot of what happens to her is tied in with that Resurrection Crusade and everything, and I don't think we're going to get a lot of that payoff until we, possibly get into the second season and things like that. So that's why I know there's been some people kind of complaining about not a lot of background information or developing of Zed, and I think that's just due to them trying to still get that, full season order as well as season 2. Once they get that under their belts, then, we're going to see a lot more of these comic storylines be brought onto the screen. So just be patient, guys. Keep up with the show, and I know we'll get that payoff because they are paying a lot of respect to the source material and the fans so far. We also get to see that, more tinkering with John tinkering with magical items, as far as creating the binding spell on the bottle and things like that. And we see that he doesn't adhere to just one traditional magical heritage or anything, or tradition. He has used things from Christian theology. In this, it's more like a Kabbalistic or like a Jewish Kabbalah type magic. As well as he does, in this episode, visit one of his, quote unquote friends, the shaman, Mono. And we just see that, that's the thing about John that makes him so unique in the magical world is he opens himself up to all areas. He kind of limits his particular strength, but he has such a vast knowledge in these other areas that it kind of makes up for it. So we get this scene with Nomo, and there's a lot of, comedic underlying with that scene with them, taking the drug that, according to John, they're going to trip balls basically, and they essentially do. And, we see him enter this altered state with the shaman and, the pulling out of the eye and everything. That's all, directly related to the comic. But, it's just very, very well done scene. We're getting a lot of payoff now. The writing continues to get stronger in this series. So I'm very, very happy about that and very looking forward to seeing this series grow. Now, the ending of the show did kind of change, as well from the comics. In the comics, basically, they, deliberately trapped Nemoth into Gary's body. He didn't have a choice about it, and essentially walled him up behind a brick wall and left him there to die, and hold the demon in, basically. Whereas in this, they're presenting a more sympathetic take on the John Constantine characters. He does essentially trick Gary into coming with them. But we see, before they go there, they talk about Newcastle, and you can see on John's face, he doesn't really want to talk about it still. I mean, it still hurts him a great deal. But, he lets Gary know, I didn't blame you for anything. And I actually think at that point, he was being honest with him. He wasn't trying to trick him. He was giving him that essentially absolution that he needed. Because he knew what was going to happen, that he wanted to trap the demon in Gary. And, at that final point, John's like, hey, we can, draw straws kind of thing. And, he felt bad about doing this, but at the end of it, Gary made the choice to be the container for this demon. So, like I said, they're doing a more sympathetic take on John, especially at the very end where, instead of just walling up Gary, he's sitting there with him, holding his hand while this demon is tearing him apart from the inside out. This connects back to his feelings with Astra and how, he would do anything in order to save her. So, we know that he's willing to sacrifice those around him. We get that, reference back in episode 1 where, he's facing Firstifer and, he pulled up the image of Astra and was like, hey, I'll free her soul. And right then and there, he was willing to sacrifice Liv in order to free Astra. So we know he's willing to sacrifice those around him, but he feels the weight of it. And particularly when he's talking with Zed and she's just chastising him and he's just, let's go. And he's like, he's knows what's going on. He feels it. That's expressed very well in Matt Ryan's performance. But just seeing the very end where, he's holding Gary's hand and then Manny's there overseeing it all, ready to, deliver Gary's soul basically to heaven is how it appears. But, we see what John is willing to do at this point. But he feels the weight of it. It's not like he's, disconnected from it. So they're very much humanizing John Constantine, which I think is very nice and, something that needs to happen in a television show is you have to build that emotional connection with your audience in order for them to attach to it, and thus it grows and, we get more episodes. But just grounding him in that sense of, he's a lot of times during the show, yeah, he's kind of a dick, which he is in the comics as well. But they're, like I said, they're humanizing him. They're building up this sympathy for us as the viewers for him. So I'm liking where they're going with the writing on this. Like I said, this was a very, very strong episode. Would I have liked to see Papa Midnight in this and see him work with John? Yeah, that would have been awesome to see. But, we still don't know how exactly they're going to use Papa Midnight in this series yet. So, I can understand them leaving him out. But yeah, all around, this was a very, very strong episode. I very much enjoyed it. I hope you guys enjoyed it as well. Now, I just want to encourage everyone to stick with Constantine. I mean, it seems every week we're hearing, are they going to be canceled? And it's got great numbers. The actual, night of viewing episodes may not always be as high, but they're making up numbers in, the DVR numbers and, online numbers and things like that. So the show is doing well. We just have to stay behind it. And like I said, if we stay behind it, they're going to get additional seasons, and we're going to get those payoffs that we want to see. We're going to see, we're already about to see the Spectre, potentially. We're going to see Dr. Fate eventually. They're already referenced that. Whether we're going to see Swamp Thing, I'm not sure. I'm pretty confident we're going to see Zatanna in this series. But, we as the fans need to support the show. Because, like I said, these writers, the producers, and definitely the actors are doing the best they can to stay loyal to the source material within the confines of being on a network show. So, like I said, all around, this was an awesome episode of Constantine. If you guys have not watched Constantine yet, definitely recommend you guys checking it out. It's a great series. Like I said, they're paying a lot of respect to the comics. So, let me know in the comments below. What did you guys think about this episode of Constantine, and how do you feel about the series in general? If you have any questions about any of the characters or any of the ideas presented in the show, definitely put those down in the comments below, and I'll be happy to go over that information with you. If you enjoyed my video, I'd ask you to go ahead and give me a thumbs up and share the video. And if you haven't already, I'd ask you to go ahead and subscribe to my channel, as I will be doing weekly reviews of Constantine, as well as the other Marvel and DC television shows going on right now. And if you have gone ahead and subscribed to my channel, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, and I hope you guys are enjoying the videos. That being said, I hope you all have a great rest of your day. Bye.